I believe the land biomes were in chapter 15, right? And you guys know a lot of examples of biomes. What were some of them? Desert, tundra, grasslands. They can be tropical or temperate. Forests, lots of different things, right? You should have all of that stuff in your packet, right?
Yeah.
There was information, you're supposed to list some facts about it or label it or whatever you did. So I don't have to go through each one specifically. You already have that information. You'll use that on the test. But I did want to talk about the general idea of a biome and understanding that a biome is defined based off of climate and plant life. So when you talk about it being a temperate grassland, that tells you multiple things. What's the predominant plant life, obviously? Grass. And what's the climate like if it's temperate? You have seasons, right? So it can be cold in the winter, it's going to be warm in the summer, and then spring, fall in between somewhere. And so just saying that in the name gives you a lot of information right off the bat. So a temperate grassland will be very, very much different than a tropical grassland. But climate, plant life, those are the big things. Climate specifically, usually you're talking about temperature and precipitation. So some of those things have precipitation in the name, right? You not only have forests, but you also have rainforests, right? So when it says tropical rainforest, it tells you it's going to be wet, but it's also tropical, so that means it's hot, it's warm year-round, right? But then it's a forest, so the predominant plant life are trees. So you get all that information just from the name most of the time. But otherwise, when we're dealing with biomes, the one that does get kind of confusing for some people, what are deserts like?
Dry.
They're very dry.
Well, no, there's cold.
They are not necessarily hot,
They can get below freezing at night, can't they?
but there are some deserts, like the Arctic, is actually a desert because the precipitation is so low. There is snow, obviously, but the snow has been there for a long time because it's cold all the time. It doesn't melt very frequently. So just make sure that this one specifically, you think temperature when you think desert. You think that it's going to be hot, but actually it doesn't have to be hot. So
that snow,
the main...
Can we just say they can be really hot or really cold?
It can be.
Yeah.
But
Is there one of them?
the main defining factor of a desert is that it's dry. So there's very little precipitation. But then also, there isn't any plant life, right? Generally speaking. There is plant life, but usually it's well adapted to being in that arid conditions, right? It should be able to deal with not having water for long periods of time like a cactus can. So
that snow in like the Arctic, that snow could be like years old.
that snow could be, years old because it doesn't really ever melt. It's kind of like, I have an uncle who lives in Wisconsin. Once it snows in the North Woods up there, that snow stays there from October to June basically for him.
Yeah.
It never melts. But if you were in the Arctic, it's there all year long, and
So
it's
if you
been
go
there
to
for
the
10 years.
Like 10-year-old
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, other questions I like to ask about biomes, maybe what biome do we live in, Zach?
We live on grassland.
That's part of it.
Temperate.
It could be a temperate grassland. And that also depends on the person because some of us may live north of Rushville and then it's not really a grassland anymore, right? So, but generally speaking, when we're talking Nebraska, it's a grassland, right? But it's temperate for sure. If you do talk about that forest, the area north of Rushville, what kind of trees are up there? Deciduous or coniferous?
Coniferous.
Coniferous, right? So,
Why didn't we go over coniferous and deciduous in biology?
We did in the packet just now, didn't we?
Not really.
It was in the packet.
It wasn't like in depth though.
I thought it was something that you guys probably already knew though.
Yeah, like we went over it, but like I would think in biology we'd go over like in depth about trees and plants and stuff, but no, just about animals.
This isn't botany. This is biology. It's life in general and how does life work. It's mostly cellular stuff, right? That's what we talked about. Okay, so why are mountains kind of weird?
Because
Why are they so
West
hard
side
to
is
define?
west side. Yeah.
Well, there is the
High
rain shadow.
elevation.
But why are they hard to define as far as the biome is
Because
concerned?
they're diverse in altitude.
Yeah,
Because
what Jared said.
The different altitudes have different things going on. So
Yeah,
at the
like-
bottom you might have a grassland and then you got kind of a forested area in between and then above the tree line there's nothing.
Yep.
Right? So you have all sorts of different biomes in one place at one time, which makes it kind of confusing. The ice caps are also a little bit weird. Again, if you were going to define the Arctic, it is probably most likely a desert if it was going to fall under any biome. But again, when you have zero plant life, right, there aren't cactus or anything in the Arctic because the only things that can live in the Arctic hunt in the ocean. That's where they get their food. There's nothing on land for them to eat or use. So since there's no plant life in the Arctic, that's why it's hard to define it as a biome. Otherwise, the last thing I might ask, and this is an easy one, it should be an easy one. What biome has the greatest biodiversity?
Rainforest.
So be specific. Don't just say rainforest. Because there's a rainforest in the northeastern part of our country in Oregon and Washington state. Right? But tropical rainforests are really diverse, have the greatest biodiversity. Can't spell today, so let's work on that. I struggle with spelling every day, but it seems to be an extra hard thing for me today. Why is the tropical rainforest so diverse, though? What
It's
makes
warm.
it
It's
diverse?
constantly warm. It's warm.
Consistently warm.
Precipitation.
And there's plenty of water. That's all that really matters. And so it's in the name again. Tropical is warm year round. Rain, obviously there's water there. Definitely lots and lots of species in the tropical rainforest. So that's all we have to cover for today. You can go back to working productively on your packets unless we're about out of time. It looks like we might be.